whatever your size of investment is, whatever your target franchisee profile and candidate is, will dictate what's most appropriate for you guys. On the left side of the scope here, of the funnel, you see the cost per lead is about $116 right now. So the average cost per lead is $116. And that's per lead, not per prospect. You know, we say you're a suspect until you're a prospect, and then you generate to, or you graduate to become a lead. So an average, $116 per lead. You can reverse engineer back into your goal of what do I want to sell in any particular year. And right now, if you given today's snapshot in time, given today's economics, if you want to sell 10 franchises, it's going to take you about $94,000 of marketing. $94,000 of marketing equals 10 sales equals 670 leads, given a 1.5% close ratio. So I'll say it one more time. $94,000 will get you 10 sales, given that you're talking to 670 leads, and you have a 1.5% close ratio. So it can be predictable, and it's really how much money you can throw at this thing to get the numbers. The right side of the page is simple. It's what the duration of time you're looking at to close those sales. And we've all heard the term, and it's still true today, time kills deals. These are, oftentimes you say you're in the business of produce. You sell bananas, and bananas can become brown. So you have to make sure that you have a pipeline and a process that's efficient and can get people through it, this discovery process, in a reasonable time frame. Because of the soft economic conditions, that time frame has elongated. It used to be you could be fairly reasonable in your process to expect 60 to 90 days of a cycle time. Now it's upwards of 120 plus days. And that just is what it is at today's current snapshot in time. So that's kind of the overview of things. You know, at the end of the day, it all gets down to what is your concept, how much money you have in your marketing budget, how well do you know your target profile of your candidate, and who you have talking and being lead-facing in your process. Those are the 4 components that really make up good sales programs.
Thank you, Dave. Obviously, very important topic is lead generation. Perhaps later on, we can talk a little bit further about cost per lead and cost per sale. Those are going to be 2 key metrics as a franchisor that you really do need to measure. So let's jump into the next portion of the presentation. Again, introducing you to James Franks, who is an in-house Vice President of Franchise Development. You're going to have a choice if you're a franchisor to whether you want to outsource your franchise sales team or whether you want to hire an internal team who's then going to be a corporate employee who then is going to perhaps hire employees or brokers to sell franchises for them. So James, without further ado, please.
What I want to talk about a little bit too is when you go in, and when I talk to a lot of franchisors, because I've worked with brands that have under $200,000 investment, brands that have under $600,000 and million and so forth. And I think it really, one of the things you're hearing a lot, especially in the restaurant business right now, is there's some 3 common factors. It's really, do you have a business model that's franchisable? And if you're going after existing operators that are looking to diversify their portfolio and things of that nature, numbers don't lie. The main thing is they want to look at is what is your sales to your investment ratio. And you know, if you're owned by a private equity company and you're looking to do company expansions, you know, those may require a lot than what I call street investors, where it's usually 2 to 1. So if your investment's $500,000, you better be hitting the $1 million mark if you're going after existing operators in that aspect. So one of the things I always talk about is, you know, does the business model support that growth? And these bullets that's on this first slide is ones that I'll go through we have there. So if you talk about the second slide is the type of franchisee. And all this goes down to when you're talking about how you're going to franchise your business and how we analyze it when we're looking at launching an in-house program. I have, you know, we talked about Red Mango introduction. When I launched that brand, they had maybe 15 stores. The type of franchisee, we re-engineered that whole program. We did what I did something over at Dunkin' Brands with the Baskin brand at one time called Small Business, Small Network. We basically were able to sell small development territories that support a 3 to 5 unit growth territory that was developed over a 2 to 3 year period. One of the things Dave talked about was real estate. Real estate was a factor in our business. If you looked at the yogurt category, it's one of the most competitive categories there is right now, not only with franchise brands, but independent brands. So we really had to set ourselves apart. And so we went after that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But last year, when I was there with them, this is in 2010, excuse me, we did about 63 franchisees, 147 stores, and they're opening most of those this year. I think they'll in close to 200 locations open from talking to them the other day. So the type of franchisee, if you're looking for a first-time entrepreneur, or does your model support only existing experienced operators? And that's aspect. Where to franchise? I think that limited budgets really dictate where you franchise. Dave talked about referrals. 26% of our sales last year at Red Mango came from referrals. Those are referrals from existing franchisees or consumers of the brand. They were first-time entrepreneurs. That was a big aspect of the business. So that piece of it is not just people you know in your family and friends, but it's consumers of your business. And we found that was a huge part of the business. And the support team. We basically brought in every department and said, you are part of the franchise sales team. Everything you do affects our growth, so if our franchisees aren't happy, or existing franchisees validation, if they're not making money, if the marketing's not working, so forth, it affects our business and vice versa. So we really had that meeting as well. And we know your competition. A big part of our business, at that time there was really only 2 brands that were growing with Red Mango. Now there's probably over 40 or 50 brands in that category, and they're really, with the real estate and so forth, is a big part of their business. So, you define your growth, and as Dave said, really dictates your budget and what you have. Franchise Update says, all the studies, $10,000 to $12,000 it takes to attract a franchisee. I know a brand that this year will spend $1.2 million on marketing advertising alone to attract franchisees. That's no travel, that's no salaries, that's just marketing, advertising, PR. It will cost them $20,000 to attract a new franchisee, is what they did. But they sold an average of 5 units to each franchisee. So they sold 270 locations this year. And they're a very established brand. They have 8,000 locations now. So they have the model that works. They put the right team in place, and they invested in that aspect. And it's an investment of about $600,000 on average unit. So the number of franchisees you want to open and the number of units each franchisee is going to operate. So, of course, if you're an owner-operator business, it's going to dictate how many locations you sell and so forth. One of the things that I love to do, and I just talked to Cheryl about this when doing development agreements, is I don't like long-term development agreements, especially in the real estate market is today. If somebody's going to open 5 units with Fazoli's, they have 2.5 to 3 years to do it. If they're going to open 2 units, they have 18 months. If they can't financially are not capable of doing that in that short period of time, probably shouldn't do the deal, because real estate's probably not going to be available when they're ready to look for it and so forth. One of the things that Five Guys did and all their growth is they only attracted financially sound franchisees that could weather the storm without banks. And that's one of the things that Red Mango did last year, is only about 20% of their franchisees actually went and got loans to open their locations. So that actually helped their growth with that aspect of it. So knowing that piece. And then the time to onboard a franchisee, as Dave talked about. 120 days is an average. If you're a bigger ticket item, it's going to take longer. If you're selling larger territories, it's going to take longer. If you have to find the real estate first, because I tell folks, if it takes 4 months to sell them, and then it takes another 6 to 9 on average to get the first location open. So, that aspect. We really break it down as what that each franchisee is worth to us. So if you're a 6% royalty and you're a $500,000 unit average, you look at that, they're signing up for 3 locations or whatever, what franchisee may be worth $1 million over the term of their agreement to you or more. So it's really looking at that piece of it. You can grow with a limited budget. I've worked with franchisors that were just starting, that 2 or 3 franchisees. You know, outsourcing with the right business brokers is a great thing to do, especially